Very much, John, my speech is really about being right and the difference between that and doing the right thing. I think it was right for this review to be commissioned and carried out because, as Councillor has already said, we're overdue according to regulations. And there are real issues about reducing barriers for people with ill backgrounds to become councillors. I also think that it's important for members of the public to understand how councillors' allowances are determined. This report is publicly available for all to read, and it is a valuable contribution towards transparency in local government. Most members of the public are fair-minded, and we recognise that in order to have a healthy, sustainable democracy, it is essential that elected representatives be treated fairly at all levels. Of course, all local authorities are different, and Cambridgeshire does some things differently from other councils, and its current allowances scheme is a reflection of its local circumstances. However, it is right for us to be assessed against comparable authorities and for benchmarking and good practice in other places to be used to set our own arrangements. So, Chairman, there are many things about this process and this report that are right. However, we are placing within this position of having to vote on our own allowances. There is an argument that says, what's the point of having a system of independent review if at the end of it you decide not to accept its recommendation, whether that means increases, decreases, or both in some cases. The issue is, of course, that as long as we as elected representatives are required to vote on the recommendations, then we cannot do so without considering wider issues. The report says that it's never a good time to review members' allowances. I would say the real question is whether or not it's a good time to increase them. Chairman, now is the worst possible time to increase allowances. How can it be right to award ourselves an extra £170,000 when this very council has cut funding for many vulnerable people who we were elected to serve? How can it be right when this very council has voted to cut 450 jobs from our own workforce? How can it be right when public and private sector workers are facing pay cuts, pay freezes, a squeeze on pensions and rising living costs everywhere? How can it be right when we have put libraries and bus services under threat of closure? And how can it be right to increase our own allowances when we are facing a court case to recover tens of millions over us with the grounded busway? So, Chairman, there is a context, and in that context we cannot justify such an increase. Objectively, the conclusions of the report might well be right, but if you carry out a review of workers' pay right now, you might also come to the conclusion that pay rises for them workers demand. Yet I can guarantee that no employer will implement such a rise. Chairman, there may well come a time when it might be right to increase council allowances. I'm not one of those councillors, one of those politicians that believe that we should always engage in self-calculation to please public opinion, although what some members of the council might do in their own time is no concern of mine. When we have real economic growth, when unemployment starts to fall, when workers start to get long overdue pay rises, then we can think about it again, and maybe someone will come up with a better system. We might have to wait a very long time. But because of the wider economic context today, which we as elected politicians cannot ignore, we must agree that we cannot justify such an increase at this time. So I will be voting against the increase. Let us all parties do the right thing